Welcome to On Writing with Onkarabile Mokoto, the show that is aiming to promote reading and writing in our communities. We seek to restore the pride and the voices through the power of writing and reading. And today on our show, ladies and gentlemen, help me to welcome Portia Kel, who is going to share more on the challenges that authors are going through. Portia, thank you so much for coming to our show, and you are very welcome.
Thank you, Onkarabile.
Let's start, by telling us who you are. Where do you come from? Where have you grown up? Everything about you.
Sure, everything about me.
Yes.
I'm a mom of two boys, a sister to some, Rakhadi. I'm called Rakhadi a lot lately because I hang out with those people that call me Rakhadi. I'm a learning and development practitioner. I'm also a pastor, and I'm a writer. I'm an author and a book publisher.
Okay. Talking about writing, you started your journey in 2014. Tell me, what inspired you to go on this route of writing?
I published my first book in 2014, but I had actually started writing in 2009. And what sparked that was I was just attending training while I was still working for the bank. And during that leadership course, someone said something that just reminded me that I should be writing a book. And I think she probably even said, write that book. So, your dreams can be revived anywhere by anyone without them even realizing. So I wrote a mini book at that time that I couldn't publish because I didn't have any information about publishing.
Okay.
And I had to wait until 2014 when I was ready. As a result, I have an insert of that piece in the book.
Talking about lacking information, let's talk about what actually you are here for today. The challenges that authors are going through. What are the challenges that you yourself, went through? Before maybe you share with us about the challenges that you saw other authors are going through. What are the ones that you yourself went through?
All right. So, being in learning and development, I ended up in design, in the design unit. So what that means is that we were basically creating books for the bank. In a similar way that we create books for authors now as a publisher. But the difference for me was that the way we would package the books in the bank, I had this knowledge gap and I always wanted, information gap. And I always wanted to know, so how does a book end up being this way as opposed to our kind of books? So I sat with that for years. I didn't even think I would ever start a publishing business. But I guess because I'm the kind of person who often wants to I almost want to be the grower of something. If I must plant something, I want to be the one who plants it, manufacture it, process it, and then sell it. So I want to be a one-stop shop kind of yeah. So that drove me to searching for more and more information to a point where I ended up publishing my book. But I was frightened with the information that I was getting, information regarding costs, for instance. And when you speak with people, sometimes they would make it sound like it's impossible. If you didn't know someone, for instance, at the National Library, it was impossible. That's how it sounded. And if you didn't have 100,000, you wouldn't be able to publish a book. That's what my research was telling me.
Okay.
So those are the challenges
so
I had.
Do you think there are still people out there who will want to write, a book, but still think that writing a book, you need 100,000? Do you still?
Definitely. I was there. That was just a few years ago. I was a person who's already in the industry where we check people's content, put it together and print. Yet for my own work, I believed what the research was saying. But obviously it was also a challenge because I knew I didn't have that and I didn't necessarily want to apply for funding. So in searching, I think it's good to always have a challenge and not give up when you have a challenge. That's why it's a challenge. So in searching, I got to a point where I met someone who was working with me actually, but I didn't know the process she had followed. So I got information from her regarding where she went to get her first published book.
Okay. So, since you were working with someone, so if someone is out there, and doesn't know where to go, doesn't have anyone next to, just like you, how are they going to get that kind of knowledge? Of saying, publishing a book is not really difficult as you think. How are they going to get that knowledge?
Well, right now there are many ways. Even in that period, as much as I spoke with someone, many other people spoke with me, whether they were known or not known to me. And the more I went for interviews, the more people contacted me for questions. Hence, I came up with a book that I believe would help people with just the basic information, the self-publishing guidelines for writers. And I purposely had to say it for writers so that people know that it's specifically for someone who's where I was at some point, where I had no information or little information. But I mean, we live in a time where for any industry that you want to go into, there's a lot of free information on Google. That's the first point. The question is, are you getting relevant and correct information? And it's for the individual who's doing the research to find out. That's the long way to do it. There are a lot of books, I believe, in the market that are now available to help people with writing. Just like this book, yes.
Okay. And you know, I think you do receive a lot of messages, maybe, you know, in your Facebook, in your WhatsApp, about people who want to write a book, but many of them will say, I mean, I'm saying this because I have received that myself. I want to write a book, but I don't have money, I don't have fund. How do we help such people who are going through such challenges where, you know, you have mentioned that you don't need 100,000 to write a book, but there's some cost that is involved there. Or maybe we can share a little bit about different types of publishing, you know, self-publishing and a traditional way of publishing, so that we can have that knowledge of saying you can write a book without 100,000, you know. Tell us about that.
So yes, definitely there's self-publishing and traditional publishing. I'm forever rejecting offers to do traditional publishing with overseas people, and I'm forever getting offers. But that's because they're not cheap. And why should I pay someone when I run this business myself? So you find literary agents overseas, that's what they're called, and they want to represent you to take a book to the traditional publishers. The fact is, when you go through the traditional route, you shouldn't be paying, but not many writers will be published through the traditional way because it's an industry where money makes all the difference, and money goes with whether you are known or not. And by that, I mean, would you bring money to the business that's funding you? Okay. It's as simple as that. So when it comes to self-publishing, I thank God that we have this actually, because it's just another way of enabling all of us to publish the very books that we've always wanted to publish without the restrictions. Because I imagine if you were to publish through someone, they would also have their rules in terms of this can go, this can't go. If I think of my first book, I think in my first book, I broke a lot of writing rules because it was a fruit salad, if you want to call it that. I made sure I put everything that I wanted to put in one book. And I had seen that with one author whose book I used to distribute, you know, that you can put a whole lot of things. So, yes, in life, people need to understand that nothing is for free in life. Everything that you see, someone has paid for it. And if you want something, you have to also be willing to give something. It's disappointing that, for instance, in trying to help people, I would run a competition, and I've done it a few years ago. I think it was less than 500 Rand all in all. And I did that purposely to cover the basic costs, venue, the recordings. I think that amount would have only covered that. And I was prepared to carry the rest of the costs. But you can imagine in any project, you calculate things, and guess what? You do this, people are interested, but they're not even willing to pay the less than 500 Rand amount, whatever it was. And then you allow a few people to come through. I don't know how it all happened. And in the end, out of, let's say, more than 10 inquiries, only 2 make it. Make it not because of a specific way that they wrote, but made it because they met the requirements, and one was the payment. So if someone is not going to find a way of raising 500 Rand, I'm not sure how they will find a way of raising 5,000 Rand, 10,000 or 20,000, depending on the nature of their project. But the reality is that even if I decide, and I can speak like this because I'm very much an entrepreneur and I've been an entrepreneur all my life, even if I want to start selling potatoes or tomatoes, if I want to start selling acha, I must have a capital to start with. So nothing, I mean, if you give nothing, what do you expect to receive in return? And I've got that in one of my books. Nothing happens if you're not prepared to give something yourself. So in early years, and thank God for this, because I think those are gone now. Those kind of inquiries are gone. I think I didn't only get inquiries, I even got people fighting me, demanding that I give them something. and telling me how I owe society. And that's just a wrong mentality, because we all struggle. We all have to overcome certain things. We all have to take care of certain things.
I'm amazed. So, it's amazing because I myself still receive such inquiries, about people who want to write, but they don't have money. That is why I'm asking you this question so that I can also have the answer for them, So are you saying if I don't have nothing at all, then there's no way that I can have a book published?
No, not necessarily. So, firstly, when someone makes an inquiry, make it with the right attitude. So that if, for instance, if you are contacting me, if I don't have anything at that time, because of course there will be times when I don't have anything that I'm doing for free. But if you contacted me in the right spirit and you were not demanding, and you showed me that you have talent, when I run a project at a certain time and I'm just looking for writers, nothing else, I will remember you. It's the same as in the workplace. So I think if we can just get our attitude right, our mentality right, of course, we're not always going to get what we want when we want it, but we have to have patience. And there's a reason why we must have patience, because it builds character. And you need that in the industry.
And I agree with you, because I was reading a story about Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook.
Yes.
And how he got funding, And one of the person who was with him when they were pitching for the project, he says that when he saw that guy, he realized that he had 2 nights, sleepless 2 nights, when he was telling them, because of his project, was committed to his project, And when he pitched that project to the funders, they realized that this has potential,
Yes.
And one of the guys who wrote the book that I was reading, he says, we actually did not get funding ourselves that time. And we thought we had a better idea than him. Yes. But we were so surprised that the kid got the funding than us, So I agree with you that you need to show that commitment. Money is not, okay, we need money, but it's not everything,
Yes.
If you have an idea and you are committed to the idea and you show the funders that this can work, and you show your effort also, even if you don't have money, but you show the effort, you show the commitment, I believe that, the funders will see the potential and they will also...
They will help. But there's also another angle as we speak. I'm remembering a time when, so I like to say I grew up in the bank, and it's a fact. I spent more than 20 years in the banking industry, and I was in and out, mostly at the same bank. And I remember at one point having been in business and needing to go back to work many years ago. I had to decide to sacrifice what I used to earn and say, you know what, as long as I have my 1 foot in back at the bank, I know that I will work myself up. So I had to sacrifice and forget about how much I used to earn, as long as the bank was going to take me back at that time, way back then. As long as I was back in, I would work myself up, and it worked exactly that way. So the reason I say that is because in my business, I will never publish someone else's book for free. I will never do that. But I will sometimes have projects, and those projects will vary. So people must just look out for those projects. So I'm using that example because I'm saying be willing to start with whatever is available. If someone is going to give you an opportunity, but it's their brand, it's their copyright, but they're giving your name an opportunity, they're also giving you a skill in the process, because you get to know how the industry works. You also get the right to sell. I'm not saying it works like that with every deal that you will get into, but I give people the right to sell. So they learn a lot already. They're already authors by having taken that opportunity.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to comply with the terms and conditions, the project has to cut you off. Or even outrightly, the project will reject your application. And sometimes if there are too many applications and the project has only such a number in mind, don't take it personal. So just like life, we have to be strong as writers. Don't take the no's as you don't qualify, you don't have what it takes, but take the no as it's not yet time.
Yes.
Let me do something else in the meantime.
No, I agree. And now let's talk about, because we spoke a lot about, soon to be authors. Let's talk about now the established authors.
Yes.
The challenges that those authors are going through, especially self-published authors.
Yes.
You went through some challenges yourself after publishing. Yeah. There were challenges that before you published, then there are those challenges that you went through after publishing.
Yes.
So let's talk about many authors, that we see today. Which challenges do you see that, many self-published authors are going through?
All right. So fortunately, I have a bit of knowledge about books and music. about both industries. And I really prefer the book industry in terms of what it can do. There's someone else who will be more gifted in the music industry in terms of what it will do for them. But I use the two as an example in that they both require one to be really patient. If you have decided I want to be a writer, you really have to be patient. I've seen even music artists being patient, people who are highly gifted. You know what? It's not even life working against them. It's just a matter of God's timing in their life.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's that period of struggling. So as a person, you need to be versatile. And don't say, unless I've published my book and unless my book makes so much money, I'm not going to do anything else. Then you'll be stranded, you know. But more specifically about what happens after you've published a book, I found that it's normal for people to support you, people you know, to support you after your first published book or when you publish your first book. You will get a lot of support from those you know. But you must think like a business person because you're not always going to depend on only those who know you because they will get tired.
Yeah, yeah.
And also remember, if people are going to support you, they expect the same from you. Now, if you have 200 people attending your event, it's not possible for you to attend all the 200 events that will come after that. And human beings expect that. And that's how you start losing people. All right. Yeah. So you have to decide which industry you belong to. You have to decide that you must form a network. You must belong to a network, even if you don't form it. And when I say belong to a network, I'm not saying just jump into anything and everything. It's your choice. It really goes with a person's personality and character and lifestyle. So this industry really requires a lot of patience. Your first book, and as a publisher, I also want to see the client's first book making a return so that it covers their costs and it gives them a bit of profit. But after that, the rest of the sales that will happen will really depend on what you do with your book and how you market it. Okay. And whether or not you want to write more books and create more money that way. But the book industry is lovely in that it can be a stepping stone to other industries or to other fields of work that you do.
Like what, maybe?
So I know that when I left the bank in 2015, an international NGO approached me to start the Southern African Region office. I know that there was some link to the fact that I was an author. I know that people that recommended me did not even want me to know that they recommended me. Okay. But till this day, I think I can correctly suspect who they are, you know. And it was an international NGO. As we speak, even if I'm not active in it, I'm a co-member or a founding member in some other country and a founding member in another country. I'm definitely quiet in our country regarding that NGO at the moment. But I mean, look at what writing a book did. And I believe that, yes, I was serving at a certain organization at that time. So that also contributed. But when I think of the initial interview that they did, because they were doing online interviews, the writing piece also came up.
Okay.
So, you know, if anyone has a desire to write, don't take that for granted because you don't know why your creator has put that in you.
Yeah. No, maybe if I will ask you the last question that I have seen personally that many authors are going through. One of the challenges is book distribution.
Yes.
You know, how did you distribute your book, making sure that it goes to the right target market? Okay. And yes, how did you do that? And how can you maybe encourage other authors to look into that aspect?
All right. So everything goes with timing, and you've got to have the energy for it. You have to be in the right mindset. So all I'm going to share now was in the past, not necessarily now. So I started as a book distributor because I knew that I wanted to go into the book industry. So basically, I really served authors for free, but I made an income if I sold their books. But I think there was one author that I helped a lot more than just selling the book. I moved around in different provinces, all because I was learning. So while someone was paying 30,000 rand at a varsity, I paid that in my research in this industry, to an extent where I also hosted at an expensive place because that author only knew expensive things at that time. So it was easy for me to sell because I was in the corporate world, and I think naturally people are good and want to be supportive. So it was very easy for me to sell. It was also easy to sell a specific book because it was written quite well. People want things that affect society, things that have some juiciness in them, or things that will help them. So it was easy to sell that book. My book as well, I share my story, my life story. So it was easy to sell it. And this is why I'm saying, even though I've written 2 editions, I'll still write the 3rd one. The first book performed more than the second one, but that does not stop me from writing the 3rd one. And that's because I'm in a field where I do life coaching. And now I understand. And believe me, when it was tough and dry at some point in my life, I knew I had to continue writing because there'll be a time when there's no time to write.
Yeah,
so
that is true.
now I understand. Now that I have clients that need specific things at specific times, it's so good to just go into that library or that bookstore, that invisible bookstore of mine, and pull something out and say, here's something that can help. So there's a time for everything. I think more than anything, what I've said today is patience, timing, knowing that you want to do this. Don't do it because Paul is doing it, Peter is doing it. Do it because it's a passion, because it's going to require a lot from you.
Patience.
And networking helps because then you get to, there are things that Portia knows, but there's a lot that Portia doesn't know. Portia will learn from Onkarabile and she'll learn from someone else. Or an opportunity will come that Portia was not even aware of and she'll get it from Onkarabile and someone else. But if I close myself up, I'm not going to know about it.
Okay, I think, we got enough today. Patience, persistence, God's timing.
Yes, definitely.
That's one of the best things that, we have learned today. But maybe if you can say, your last words to those struggling authors, what will be your encouragement to them?
Well, struggling is in many ways. So I'm going to first say, if I look at the physical world and what struggling is, struggling can be that someone has upset me. Now, you are an author, you are a brand. Be careful how you deal with that, because the last thing you want is a bad or a negative dent on your brand. You are trying to build a brand and you want it to last beyond your lifetime. That's one. Secondly, finances can be a challenge. Finances are often a challenge, if not always a challenge. Find a way. Don't live to please people. Don't compete with the Instagram pictures and the Facebook pictures. Don't feel forced to write something if you are not okay spiritually. Don't fake it. I know the world says fake it until you make it. Maybe in some things, but you better be real with yourself so that you can be real with others, because people will pick it up when you're not real, and life will expose you when you're not real. So just be real.
All right. Thank you so much, Sis Portia. And please, if people want to get hold of you, where can they find you? On social media, maybe?
All right. I'm available on social media as Portia Kel. So Portia. Sometimes there's a space and then Kel.
Okay.
But most of the time it's just Portia Kel and it's one name. Once you find me there and you inbox me, we can move to WhatsApp if there's a valid business reason to move to WhatsApp.
Okay. So Portia Kel is on Facebook, Instagram.
Instagram, yes. I don't use it as much. I don't use Twitter and Instagram as much as I used to. But I use Facebook quite a lot. I'm even available as Portia Kel on Facebook, and Portia Kel Publishers. I really would encourage people to just check what I write. Sometimes you won't even need to contact me. You just read what I write until you're ready to publish, if publishing is what you need. But get other people's books as well. Get Onkarabile's book.
Thank you. Yes.
for more information. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching On Writing with Onkarabile Mokoto, the show that is aiming to promote reading and writing in our communities. Please do subscribe to our channel and comment. Thank you so much.